Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. NBA Finals Game 1 drops tonight on Thursday. Taylor and I are going to hopefully help you win some cash. It's Showdown, so pretty much anything is on the table, but we will just go over what we personally want to do and any strategy and plays that stand out. If anything we do here does help you, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Both those things help us out quite a bit. If you subscribe to the channel, you get alerted to future videos just like this. We cover MLB, daily when we can, especially when the NBA season is officially over. We'll be hitting that every day. And we cover NFL, and we'll be doing some WNBA this summer as well. So be sure to do that. And also, if you want even more advice, you can hit up our Patreon, just $5.99 for the entire month for everything we do, plus access to our Discord. All right, let's get into it here. The way we break down Showdown slates is kind of just focus on the captain ownership and projections and see where is everybody going and do we want to follow that and how else can we get different within our lineup. So let's start up top with SGA. It's game one. It's at home in OKC. It's been a bit of a layoff here for the Thunder, so certainly that is a concern. What are you thinking? Do you want to eat the SGA chalk at captain or do you want to get different?
No, I pretty much never want to eat the chalk at captain in NBA. Like, the range of outcomes is smaller in NBA. Like, the projections are pretty accurate generally, more so than other sports. But I think if I was playing single entry, I would just play someone cheap in the captain and then eat the chalk with the stars in util. So the SGA, Halliburton, J-Dub trio is going to be like the chalkiest threesome on the slate, I think. And I'm fine playing them together in a single entry, but I would just play someone else at captain, like Obi Toppin, Kason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, even TJ McConnell. In a large field, I think fading one of those stars is on the table for sure as a way to get an edge, just because of the combinatorics of that lineup and avoiding duplication and stuff. So, playing SG and captain, whatever your lineup's going to project well, I just think it's going to be severely duped whatever you do.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think right away, like, I don't know, like, you can play Hallie and you can play J-Dub just because they're like half the ownership of SGA and you can get away with that, especially if you put SGA still in the flex and then SGA is good, but not so good that he nukes, everything. Obviously, you can still play SGA as long as you get very different in the flex, but in Showdown, that's kind of hard to do. So if SGA does have a good but not great scenario where he's not like getting like 80 fantasy points, but he gets like 50 or 60, you just need to do something extra special, in the rest of your lineup to make sure you don't get duped. Okay, so I'm okay with Hallie and J-Dub too, but I'm with you just in general. I want to do something different. I don't think you have to go punt it completely, especially if you do intend on fading one of these guys up top that are going to be owned. Like, if you just flat out are going to be like, okay, I'll shift SGA to the flex, but I'm not going to play J-Dub, I'm not going to play Chet, like that kind of thing, then really you have a lot of value options on both sides where you can just kind of not do that. So if you're not going to go with like Obi or one of these punts that you're talking about, who is the first guy after that trio that you do want to captain?
Probably Chet. I think he is just going to be lower owned in captain than Halliburton and Jalen Williams. So I don't mind that. That should be different enough. I still think if you're playing Chet and captain, you should consider fading one of the other three. I think Halliburton might be the lowest owned of that group just because I feel like the field might expect Indiana to get crushed in this game. In Oklahoma City, the way the Thunder have looked lately, they look like the best team in the league. Indiana, while amazing and no one expected them to be here, is a pretty severe dog in this one. So I still think playing Halliburton is probably what I would do, but his ownership could be the lowest of the main three in captain. So if I'm going to captain one of those main three, it'd probably be him.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I do think I just naturally lean towards the Pacers in this game. Number one, obviously, like you're kind of suggesting here, everybody thinks OKC is going to win. They're favored to win. They're at home. They are the better team. This is very much lightning in a bottle. Like, nobody said the Pacers were going to get here, and nobody said they were going to win probably each of their last two series, right? So maybe even all their series. Like, some people thought the Bucks would beat them. But just the other thing is the layoff thing is kind of a concern. So I think they're the underdogs. They got nothing to lose, and there's the layoff. I think everything kind of wraps into a possible upset here. Whether they win it or not, that is irrelevant for what we're doing. But I think they can, and I kind of think they will. And then I think after that, the series is probably going to trend towards possibly a gentleman's sweep kind of situation where Indy catches them off guard here, and then OKC kind of recalibrates. But for purposes for today, I'm with you on Halliburton. I think that's definitely interesting. The fact that he's that owned a captain makes me a little more interested in guys like Siakam and Miles Turner. So we know OKC is not a great rebounding team. And we also know that they will let you shoot threes. They gave up the 7th most three-point attempts throughout the year. They defend the three-point line extremely well, and they're not going to let you make a lot of those threes. But Indiana does have a ton of good shooters, Miles Turner being one guy who will pull guys out, obviously, and hit threes. So Miles Turner is probably my favorite captain that is going to be like not really on the radar of anybody. Right now he's pulling what 1% ownership. I think that's obviously, it might be a little bit higher than that, but he's really interesting. And Siakam just in general, this entire, playoffs has been awesome. Like he was very, very good last series. Had like 2 or 3 blow up games against the Knicks. I know he had a blow up game in the previous series. So him showing up big, I would not doubt it at all. So I think those two guys are very much on my radar. And then also, if you want to drop a second tier down, Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Nesmith are going to possibly, one of them I would imagine hits here because they're going to benefit from number one. They're just going to play a crap ton of minutes because they're going to need to be out there defensively. But also because OKC gives up these threes, I think both those guys are pretty good mid-range options in that second tier.
Yeah, OKC, not a good rebounding team. Indiana is even worse. I think we saw the Knicks have success with the double big thing with Cat and Mitchell Robinson. So I think Hartenstein, we saw his minutes kind of scale back against Minnesota as the series went on, a couple blowouts, but he also got benched in the second half of, I think, game 4 for Caruso. But in this series, with the way the Pacers struggle on the boards, I think one way to combat their pace is to dominate the glass. So I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a lot more of the Chet Hartenstein double big alignment in this series. So I think Hartenstein at no captain ownership is a pretty interesting way. Like I do like the Indiana salary savers and captain, like you said, Turner. I don't mind Mathurin even as a punt. We've seen upside from him off the bench.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about him specifically, like what you thought about him, because obviously he had 2 massive games out of nowhere. He was kind of like out of the rotation, and then he popped off for 20 real points in 2 straight games. And then in the decisive game, he played like 9 minutes. Like, what was that?
I mean, it's also a horrible matchup. Like the Thunder have all sorts of wing defenders they can throw at him. And if he's not scoring, he, like you said, he can get benched. He just will be completely ineffective. But he's cheap. And he has a ceiling, so that's something I don't mind taking a shot on. He's a talented individual scorer, so even in a tough matchup, he can theoretically get there. But I think, like I was saying, I think my favorite kind of known captain is probably Hartenstein. I don't think anyone's going to play him. They saw the minutes down. It's a pretty good spot, so I don't mind rolling the dice on that. If you are playing SGA and captain, I think naturally you're going to want to fade at least one of Williams and Halliburton, just because you don't want all 3 of those together. Like that's going to be probably a very heavily duped build. Maybe punting with Isaiah Joe, Ben Shepherd, Thomas Bryant, if Tony Bradley's out, is on my radar again. We saw Bryant step up in a big way, I think, in game 6 against the Knicks with Bradley out. So keep an eye on that. There are all sorts of salary savers on the Indiana side I think have some merit. And then fully punting, like I said, Joe, Aaron Wiggins, I think are viable as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of run Thomas Bryant gets. Like if they do the thing where they're playing Hartenstein more and they have Hartenstein and Chet out there, then you're going to look at Siakam, Turner, obviously. But then, if they get in foul trouble or are ineffective, like is Thomas Bryant going to rotate back in like he did in the last game and be like super effective off the bench? He hit like every shot he took. So not sure we can bet on that again, but he's obviously very, very cheap. You kind of were alluding to this already, but let's look at the flex ownership now. Just because, if you captain SGA, he's just going to be owned across the board. He's the highest owned captain. And if you don't get away from these other guys like Hallie, J-Dub, even Chet, like they're all very owned. And then Siakam, 33% in the flex. You kind of already said like which guy you would get away from. If going down like lower ownership, what guy is down there that like aren't very owned are you going to be over on flex if you do want to play the more owned guys in captain, just so you can get different?
Yeah, kind of like I was saying, I think Aaron Wiggins as a full punt, like his minutes have been pretty shaky in the playoffs as a whole, but we've seen upside from him. If the game blows out, he's going to get a lot more run in garbage time, which he doesn't need a ton of playing time to pay off. So he's 1K on DraftKings. So that's something I would do. Like I said, Thomas Bryant, especially if Bradley's out. If Bradley's in, I assume that's just Bradley getting those minutes because that's what was happening in the last series. Ben Shepherd, like they need shooting to keep up, obviously, with OKC. Ben Shepherd was getting additional minutes kind of at the expense of Mathurin, I think, in the last game for Indiana. So I'd probably group those two out. I think they might be a little bit negatively correlated, even though they're cheap. Not sure that both's going to get there together. And then I'd probably consider a rule like max 2 of the Dort, Kaysen Wallace, Caruso 3, just because, you know, someone there is probably getting squeezed from a minute standpoint. Creating rules like that is something people just aren't going to do either. And again, having a unique lineup in a showdown format is essentially the key to ROI. So just think about things like that when you're building lineups and be aware of the rotations and injuries and stuff like that. Tony Bradley being the main example.
So a couple other ones to note, I think, like, first of all, even if Tony Bradley is in, I still like going a little bit overweight on Bryant just because, like, Bradley doesn't offer you anything as a shooter. Like, Thomas Bryant is out there for his size and maybe for his defense just because they have other big guys in there, but he also can hit threes. So I wouldn't it's risky. It's certainly riskier than it was the other day, but I don't mind that. I also just in general right away, I'm going Alex Caruso over Kaysen and Dort. Like if he's going to be way less owned, I'm okay doing that. And then McConnell over Mathurin. Like Mathurin and Obi Toppin are getting a lot of ownership of the flex. Like you don't have to captain these guys necessarily because the ceilings aren't, you know, super impressive. But if the ownership gap is going to be what we're seeing right now, I think that is I think that's a pretty good way to go. I do like Obi though. Like Mathurin is very YOLO. Like you can certainly play Mathurin. Like I said, you can do anything you want in a showdown because he's shown that ability to have a ceiling if he can actually pop off. But Obi feels like he also has a ceiling, but he's like way safer. Like you know he's going to play 15, maybe 20 minutes, and you know he's going to bring it energy-wise, so that can translate into, you know, stats and everything. All right. So that gives you an idea as to where we are at as far as captains and flex and just like trying to, you know, get some kind of advantage against the field. The other thing that we kind of mention every time, just want to remind anybody watching, it's okay to leave money on the table also. Like you can go, especially if you're not captaining the chalky captains, that is just another way to get different. You can like slide SGA to the captain, fade Hallie or whatever you end up doing, and then eat like $1,000 in salary. You know, that is also a good way to get different. Any partying advice before we go into game one here?
Probably don't play SGA captain, and then you can kind of do anything else. And then like just I think I'm going to be, like I said, setting a rule where it's like a max 2 of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Halliburton, just because that'll naturally make you different. It won't get you too far off the reservation as far as median projection goes.
Yeah, I think mine's going to be kind of twofold. It's going to be number one, I'm leaning Pacers. I'm just going to play into Indiana bringing it. They are 10-point dogs. They are not the better team, but you never know, man. Maybe they will just win the finals. But in game one, I just think they are going to bring it. And the other thing is like toy with different lineup constructions in general. If you want to eat the SGA chalk, maybe you just go SGA and then the rest of your lineup is Pacers, you know, or just like Pacers heavy beyond SGA. SGA brings it, but the rest of OKC doesn't, and the Pacers stay close, that kind of thing. Lots of things to consider, but the reality is it is showdown. Your lineup might get duped even if it's perfect. You just got to try different things to try to get to gain leverage on the field. All right, hopefully that does help you out. If it does, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, consider heading over to our Patreon linked below this video. Just $5.99 for everything that we do, and it grants you access to our awesome Discord. A lot of good, eager minds in there, everybody in there helping each other out. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.